Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Thursday the 31st of May 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. And to start off with something in the Times, making the Times front page, France is blocking an agreement on a key aspect of a security partnership with the EU. That's what the UK government is at least fearing in the reports today. Now, the so-called Prüm Convention is the thing which is really being focused on as something which the French apparently are causing a bit of a little bit of question mark about effectively. Now, what does that do? The convention allows for the sharing of DNA, fingerprint and vehicle information on criminals across the borders, obviously therefore an effective means of cracking down on crime and being able to trace and track criminals across any kind of borders, particularly within Europe. This apparently, according to these reports, is under some kind of question mark because of the new security arrangement post-Brexit. Now, in the context of the whole coverage which has happened in the past couple of weeks, remember the coverage we did last week about the Galileo project, the satellite project, where the EU Commission apparently has put some question marks over whether the UK will be able to remain active or at least a participant and have access to that facility. This now is another layer of where Brexit and security seems to be less straightforward than perhaps had been assumed by particularly the UK and the UK commentary and UK press as well. The reason behind that is the UK is considered to be, and is reported to be considered to be, very strong on security and intelligence, and something which the EU will be very, at least aware of the need to continue a security relationship with the UK, so to benefit themselves from Britain's infrastructure and expertise in the area. However, these reports indicate that it's not going to be as straightforward as previously planned, and the UK's clout isn't perhaps going to go as far in the negotiations as previously suspected. Now, the French embassy, I should say, absolutely deny this report. The spokesman, Angélique Bonnel, insisted it was absurd to say that France would block the UK from the Prüm Convention and did emphasise this is a matter for the European Commission. It was, of course, the European Commission which, again, put the case of the Galileo project not being as straightforward post-Brexit for the UK to have access to. And therefore, this might be coming from the European Commission, that's purely speculatively, rather than the French government. An interesting report nonetheless, that's in the Times front page. Next up, Conservatives challenged on Islamophobia. Now this is the Muslim Council of Britain, which is an organisation representing Muslims in the UK, has written to the Conservative Party formally requesting an inquiry into Islamophobia within the party, within the Conservative Party. Now it's a letter from the General Secretary Harun Khan, and it says, and I quote, more than weekly occurrences of Islamophobia from candidates and representatives of the Conservative Party, and calls, and the second element to this letter is a calls for the Conservative Party to publish a list of instances of Islamophobia within the party where action has already been taken, and to adopt a programme of education and training on Islamophobia. Now, a party spokesman for the Conservative Party has said, we take all incidents seriously, which is why we have suspended all those who behaved inappropriately and launched immediate investigations. Now, in the context of what's been going on across political parties, particularly in the Labour Party with anti-Semitism and the reports from there, this again showing that the Conservative Party, there is at least some concern from a representative organisation in the UK, the Muslim Council of Britain, that there is a presence of Islamophobia in the Conservative Party and something needs to be done, or at least there needs to be more transparency and clarity on where action is taken to remove all forms of bigotry within political parties. That might have some few more lines on that today as the Westminster wakes up a little bit. Everyone's on recess though, so there might not be that many lines, but potentially something to look out for later on today. And finally, now we heard of the Brexit Musketeers, Liam Fox, David Davis and Boris Johnson. Well, there's a new Brexit trio in town to rival for the media attention. Now, this is the Brexit Sensible trio of Amber Rudd, Justine Greening and Damien Green. Damien Green, of course, former Deputy Prime Minister to Theresa May. They reportedly have been meeting with Prime Minister Theresa May and have told her to ignore the noisy Brexiteers and those making a lot of noise in terms of the Brexit hardliners, and to simply follow a sensible Brexit, what the mainstream of the party want and indeed what they think the majority of the country wants. Now, the Brexit trio want to reassure, rather the aim is to reassure the Prime Minister that the mainstream of the party is still behind her and to adopt and to push forward with a policy of close alignment to the EU for the UK customs union and single market post-Brexit, and so to allow for maximum market access and for maximum relationships to continue as the same. And whatever, crucially, if there is going to be an alternative to the current proposals which have been put forward by the government in terms of Brexit, any alternative has to be sensible because it has to be able to work, particularly in terms of maximum facilitation option, rumours of the £20 billion cost to businesses which have come through. That would be an example of them saying this potentially is not going to work, let's pursue a sensible Brexit rather than anything else. Now, this comes from a point that the government is increasingly worried that the Labour Party is not going to be relied upon for any kind of Brexit legislation in terms of supporting Brexit legislation, and therefore the emphasis now is on Theresa May to ensure that the Conservative Party is happy with the Brexit government's Brexit position, so they're going to vote through in the majority, very slim majority they have, with the DUP. So the importance of keeping the Conservative internal ranks happy is ever more present. And this, I suppose, this trio is trying to not only reassure the Prime Minister to keep on track, pursue a sensible Brexit to keep the mainstream of the party in check and happy, but also reports are that Justin Greening in particular is going round to more hardline Brexiteers, having cups of tea and dinners and lunches, and to try and broker a compromise, try and be the middle person in trying to ensure that the party remains happy and united on a Brexit position. Very interesting that these three are becoming increasingly prominent. Obviously, two of them, one of them a former Justin Greening, former Education Secretary, Amber Rudd, of course, recently, Home Secretary, Damien Green recently, Deputy Prime Minister, and indeed good friend of Theresa May's. Three very prominent people within the Conservative Party, perhaps becoming increasingly influential for a more sensible, or rather what they would say a sensible Brexit position, and certainly trying to reconcile the Conservative Party together. Interesting stuff. It will probably, again, be filtering into all the news when we come back from recess, but something to be aware of, those three figures. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your Thursday.